Hello, everyone. It's Francis Widowson here. I am coming to you on Wednesday, I believe it's May 8th, and I'm just going to do a short video to let you know what's going to be happening over the next couple of days. I've mentioned in other forums that I'm going to be going to the Society for Academic Freedom and Scholarship annual meeting, which is held in London, Ontario, on May 10th and 11th. For people who are not members of the Society for Academic Freedom and Scholarship, I know I keep on saying this over and over again, but you should really join this organization, because if you are concerned about what's happening in universities, because they are the one principled voice that is defending the academic freedom rights of all faculty members in Canada. And we're going to have some very, very interesting discussions that are going to take place at the meeting this year, because we've had a major controversy that has been unfolding since the October 7th Hamas attacks by Hamas on Israel, and whether, faculty members should be able to say things in support of Hamas, all these kinds of questions. And we would like people to be able to speak freely in universities. And if we want people to speak freely, obviously, you are going to have opinions which many people get upset by. And it's an interesting matter, the Israel-Palestinian conflict, because generally in universities, what we've been dealing with over a number of years is woke identity politics. That's the major battleground with trans issues, indigenization, anti-racism initiatives, and so on. Much of the attempts to clamp down on speech come from woke identity politics. But in the case of the Israel-Palestinian conflict, it's now the woke identity politics people who are getting put under the boot of people who are supportive of Zionism. And I would argue myself that this is basically Zionist identity politics. And you can put forward a Zionist position. That's totally acceptable in universities, that this is a position that people have. But just because you are supportive of Zionism, that doesn't mean that you can use various types of policies in universities to try to shut down people who are critical of Zionism. And we're sort of seeing that. So I think it's a very good opportunity to get at the principles that are at stake here. And there's a number of things that have happened in the Society for Academic Freedom and Scholarship, which I wanted to alert you to, which I have been writing about and will be talking about on the Friday. Anyway, I just want to share my screen because I'll show you some of the things that are on the internet right now. And what I'm doing here is, in terms of seeing my screen, what I'm at right now is, if you just go this address here, www.safs.ca, and in the area, I think it's activities, that's the area you click on, and then there's the annual meeting, that is one of the tabs. And what it does is that it gives you the various things that are going to be happening. So starts at the speakers start at 2:45, and then we have the panel discussion, limits of academic freedom, speakers to be determined. And since we had a hard time organizing additional people to come in, plus our budget is limited, Robert Thomas asked me and Mark Mercer to speak on the limits of academic freedom. And what's going to happen is that Robert is going to be interviewing. It's going to be a kind of an interview format where he's going to be interviewing both me and Mark. And Mark is a wonderful academic. For people who don't know Mark Mercer, he was the president for 8 years. And although we all begged him to stay because we knew we wouldn't be able to replace him, he is a very special academic. I believe he might even have an idea of a more robust conception of academic freedom than me. So I'm a bit more uncertain, because I have problems with things like what happens when we have biologists teaching creationism in the classroom. Like, shouldn't we be doing something about that? What should we be doing? And Mark is always just more disputation, more discussion. That tends to be his argument. But anyway, it's going to be interesting what happens. And then we have at 4:15, Eric Kaufman, who is an academic from the UK, who's written quite a lot on wokeism from, I believe, a conservative position. I'm not exactly sure. He certainly is critical of wokeness, but I'm not exactly sure about the basis for the criticism. So that's going to be very interesting. And then we have Elizabeth Weiss, who is from San Jose State University, who's been very critical of what's been happening in archaeology. And I met Elizabeth once at Stanford, and we have interacted quite a lot. We've been on events together. She is an incredible scholar and very, very interesting views that she puts forward, and has a lot of expertise on Indigenous policy in the United States and also the unmarked graves. Elizabeth and I wrote a piece in Minding the Campus on the unmarked graves in Canada and the United States. So that's the Friday. And then on Saturday, so the Friday is at the Armories, which is the Delta Hotel in London, Ontario. The Saturday session is going to be at University of Western Ontario, or as they just call it now, Western. And we have Daniel, who's a good friend of mine and is very helpful with tech support for me. He is speaking on diversity, inclusion, and equity policies and their impacts on the STEM disciplines in Canadian University. Michael Dudley, who I know is a Facebook friend, but I haven't met him. I'm really looking forward to this. Talking about Shakespeare, which is, I don't even know anything about this topic, so I'm quite interested in that. And then in the afternoon, myself, Paul Viminitz, and Jonah Pickle are going to talk about the Charter Challenge at the University of Lethbridge. And then we have Elizabeth, who is going to again be speaking on another topic to do with dissent, like the problems whereby if you want to challenge the ideas, the dominant ideas in universities, the kind of problems that you have. So that is at www.safs.ca. Hopefully we'll be able to do some live streaming of that meeting, but it's quite expensive to do videos, so we have not been able to get someone to do a video. We've had videos produced in the past, and that hasn't been possible this time. So unfortunately, that is anyway. I'm just trying to get into this. There we go. Okay, so that is the overview, and then we have my presentation, or I'm going to be participating in that panel with Mark Mercer. And I just wanted to alert you to something on the wokeacademy.info site. And if you look at the address here, wokeacademy.info, and then you go over to the recent posts on the right-hand side, you will see Francis Whittelson's article in the April 2024 SAFS newsletter. And you will see the controversy that has been unfolding in SAFS, which we want to talk about. We don't want to hide it. And I have asked permissions to release all the emails that we had about this matter. And I think there is agreement on releasing the emails, but I don't want to just release part of that. I want to either release all of them or none of them, kind of thing. Anyway, in this issue of the SAFS newsletter, you will see my topic here. I should go. If you just go on the chevron here on the right-hand side, you can get into the presentation mode, which is the best way to. I just blacked out this because I wanted you to have the entire article or not anything at all. This will be coming out in this issue shortly, but you will see my article, which is Academic Freedom and Fitness for Office, a response to Janice Fiamengo. So for people who don't know who Janice Fiamengo is, she was a board member for, I believe, 8 years, for quite a few years, has been a very, very valued board member for SAFS. she disagreed philosophically with other board members on sending a letter criticizing Langara College for investigating Natalie Knight, who is an instructor there, for extramural academic freedom. And we were not agreeing with what it was that Natalie Knight said, which was, highly offensive. And she was praising the Hamas attacks on Israel. We were defending her right to be able to put that forward at a political rally. So she wasn't even on Langara College campus at the time, and she never identified herself as a professor. Now, it is an interesting question. What would have happened? What should have happened if she had made those remarks in the classroom? Should something have different have happened to her? And that's something that Mark and I are going to talk about. I'm not quite sure where the line is drawn with respect to the classroom, whereas Mark is basically, unless you can show that he's got arguments for it. Anyway, I want to get out of this now. Sorry, I keep on getting. Maybe I'll go left. No, I want to get out of this and get into. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay, so that is my article, which I'm going to be talking. That's going to be using that as reference in my panel discussion. Then I have provided the SAF newsletter from February 2024. So that has Janice Fiamengo's piece in there. Why I resigned from the Society for Academic Freedom and Scholarship. Anyway, I would recommend looking at both of those together, and maybe Janice will be providing a response to me. Anyway, it's a good way, this kind of back and forth, to sort of figure out what the different arguments are, and then we can change our minds on things if we think the evidence warrants it. So that is, those documents provide the basis for some of the discussions that are going to be taking place on Friday, and the Limits to Academic Freedom panel with myself, Mark Mercer, and I believe Robert Thomas is going to be interviewing both Mark Mercer and myself. And then on Saturday, as I mentioned, Paul Viminetz, Jonah Pickle, and me are going to be talking about the University of Lethbridge Charter Challenge that we are mounting, and that's going to be going to court in 2025. And if you want to get background on this, you go into the cases area of the Justice Center. So this is the Justice Center for Constitution, jccf.ca, the cases. And they have a whole bunch of different cases, but I'm just going to go down to where my case is, or well, the Widows, and it's got my name, but it's Pickle and Viminetz as well. And this was August 1st, 2023. That's when it was updated. So it's one of the earlier cases that they've had. And then it is, if you just go read more, you can go into that, and what it will do is it will show you all the documents pertaining to this right now. And what you'll see is the court action, so the nature of the court action, and then you have affidavits from myself, Dr. Paul Viminetz, and Jonah Pickle. So we each put forward an affidavit that is going to be the basis of the arguments that are going to be made, this kind of action. But as well, you have this court action, which it has the arguments, right? So it says basis for the claim to be put forward before the court. And so in our discussion on Saturday, I am going to be talking about this, which is very interesting case, interesting arguments. I think there's two kinds of issues. One is, how likely is it for our case to be successful? And it's not although it is a strong case, we have a good shot at it. To use a basketball metaphor, it's not a slam dunk by any means, even though you would think it would be. And it largely has to do with whether the charter applies to universities. And this is a very contentious matter. And I think we have a very, very good shot at it more than other cases because when we're in Alberta and the case law has been very supportive of the charter applying to universities, especially when freedom of expression is involved. So a lot of the case law to do with universities in the application has other charter rights that are at stake, not freedom of expression. And because we have freedom of expression, that means that we're more likely to be successful with this case. So that's the first question. The second question is, even if we are successful with the court case, is this really going to have very much of an effect on universities and the kind of censoriousness that is going on in universities? And I would argue that it has been helpful even before we got to court because we got the document dump of 260 pages and we've had a lot of exposure. The court case gives us a reason for the media to talk about these cases. So anyway, so that gives you a bit of a sense of what is happening in London, Ontario. As I mentioned, there's a whole bunch of talks that are going to be at the Armories on Friday. That is May 10th. Starts in the afternoon at around, I think it's about 2 p.m. or so. And then I'm going to be I'm going to be on a panel with Mark Mercer about the limits of academic freedom. And then there's also going to be Eric Kaufman, Elizabeth Weiss, and probably others, which I forgot about. My apologies. And then on Saturday is going to be at the university, Western University. And that information is all on the website, the SAFS.ca website. And that is going to have Daniel, I believe, and then Michael Dudley, and then Paul Viminitz, myself, and Jonah Pickle. And then we have Elizabeth Weiss, again, is giving another talk, which is all going to be excellent. Anyway, hopefully we will be able to have some live streaming happen. In any event, I will be having a recording, an audio recording of it. So you will at least have the audio. I know that's not ideal, but we don't have a lot of money, the Society for Academic Freedom and Scholarship. So we have to be very careful with how we spend our money and what we devote to certain things like video production, gets taken away from other things. And so it's always a bit of a balancing act. But anyway, we will be able to give reports on what happened based upon the audio. And I think it is going to be an incredibly interesting and productive exchange of views. And we have diverse opinions in the Society for Academic Freedom and Scholarship. So that's where you are actually able to figure out whether your own ideas are valid or not by entering into these disputational discussions with other people. And I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you very much. And I might be able to do another FaceTime at some point over the next few days, but I just thought I would get this in now because I don't know what the schedule is going to be like or what my ability to do videos is going to be like. Thank you very much, and I will touch base with you again soon.